Hello, wonderful people of the internet. My name is Matthew. Welcome to Matthew Talks About American Literature and More. And today we're going to be discussing what is the tip to reading more and finding more books you enjoy. Now, I'm sure you've all have seen plenty of videos on YouTube by much bigger and much more popular channels on how to read more and how to read more books you enjoy. And I highly recommend watching those videos. But today we're going to be talking about a tip that I personally use and that I always advise to new readers on how to pick books that they will enjoy. And I don't see many people talking about this, and I think this is one of the things that genuinely can make people, whether you're a new reader, a veteran reader, or someone in between who reads on occasion but wants to curate their books. And this is the tip I like to call the prose taste test. Now, as you probably guessed from what it's called, it's basically where you take a sample of a prose from the book and see if you like it or not. While I'm not someone who reads for prose's sake, like I know some academics do, I am of the opinion that prose is the single most make or break element of a book. Now, I also want a book to have an engaging plot, good characters, and have thematic depth, and depth in the plot and in the characters as well. But I've read books where, because I couldn't vibe with the prose, that all of that was compromised. One example I like to use is Snow Crash. Now, if you love this book, I understand why. And I do generally like this book. But this is an example of where I couldn't vibe or I couldn't really get into the prose, and that hurt the novel. Because if you broke down chapter by chapter everything that this book deals with, whether that be plot points, character motivations, character development, thematic depth, sci-fi commentary, all of that, if you broke it down and outlined it, I would actually say this is a really good book. But because I couldn't vibe with the prose, I found the reading experience much more of a drag than I thought it was going to be. So that's one of the examples that I like to point to. And I noticed that this is the case with almost everyone, either in my real life or in the internet space. If you can't vibe with how a writer writes his sentences and how he presents a story to you, you're not going to have, or the chances are that you're going to have a much worse time than if you've picked another book that is written in a way that does speak to you. Now, as someone who reads a lot of classical literature and as someone who does like literary fiction, I can and I am accustomed to a much harder prose style. But I also am not someone who likes an archaic style. For example, I just pulled it out. I am not a fan of Charles Dickens' writing style, even though I thoroughly appreciate it. Now, I'll give him another chance. I don't think I've read enough, but I've known people who've read lots of stuff, whether that be contemporary or classics, that just can't vibe with it. And everyone has those authors. Same thing with Ernest Hemingway. I like his short stories, but I don't like his style in novel form, even though his diction is fairly simple. Whereas Dickens uses 5 words or 1 word do. So what I recommend is that whether you're a new reader or a veteran reader, go into a bookstore, pick up the book, and read the first 10 pages. You're already spending money on this, so I think a couple minutes, well, depending on how fast you read, 15 to 20 minutes of your time is worth it. If those 10 pages don't feel like you're getting a lot out of the book, if you feel like you're going to have to reread those 10 pages, if you feel that you're not vibing with how the book is written, or if you feel like you're not getting a good sense of story flow, that probably is a sign that the book is not going to be for you. Now, I want to be clear, it doesn't have to jump your blood pressure or your heart rate in those first 10 pages. And I actually am someone who believes that a slow burn can be good. But if you feel that those 10 pages is like climbing a little bit of a hurdle, unless you're prepared for that, in all likelihood, I would put the book down and try it with 2 or 3, maybe even 4 other books if you're going to make your bookstore trip an occasion, if that makes sense. And whichever one has the first 10 pages that vibe with you the most, I'd recommend picking that. In addition, I'd also make sure that, like, when you pick up the book, read the blurb first. Sometimes there are spoilers, but the actual topic of the book should entice you. Or, like, if this is an author that you know you love, for example, John Steinbeck. I love John Steinbeck, I love his writing style. If you read those first 10 pages of, say, another book, To a God Unknown, I read it. It was interesting to me, so I'm probably going to enjoy it. And I'll let you know if I do. But I'll tell you what, this trick has been used by my family members and other people in a book club that I've joined. And all in all, it's helped them find more books to enjoy. And I hope it does to you too. Have a good one, and happy reading.